For 2 years she waited by the window, staring into the endless green of the Pennsylvania woods, whispering his name like a prayer that went unanswered. Vincent Caldwell, her husband, the father of their young son, had vanished without a trace during a solo hunting trip in the fall of 2000. But the truth, when it finally clawed its way to the surface, was a nightmare no one could have imagined, buried deep beneath the gnarled roots of an ancient oak, where the earth had guarded a horrifying secret until a ferocious storm ripped it open. This is the story of how a simple disappearance became a chilling murder investigation, with clues hidden in the shadows of the forest floor, waiting for nature itself to expose the killer. It started with heartbreak that shattered Amelia Caldwell's world. On October 12, 2000, Vincent kissed her goodbye at dawn, his breath fogging the crisp autumn air. At 38, he was a seasoned outdoorsman, raised in the rolling hills of central Pennsylvania, where the dense forests of the Allegheny Plateau were as familiar to him as his own backyard. He wasn't reckless, he was meticulous, a mechanic by trade who treated hunting like a ritual. Every season he'd pack his gear with precision, a weathered Remington rifle, a compact backpack with enough provisions for 3 days, a map marked with his route through the remote trails near Rothrock State Forest. "I'll be back by Sunday night," he told Amelia, ruffling their 7-year-old son Logan's hair. "If not, give it till Monday morning before you worry." She smiled, waving as his old Ford truck rumbled down the gravel drive. That was the last time she saw him alive. Sunday came and went. Amelia paced the kitchen, glancing at the clock, telling herself the trails were muddy from recent rains, or maybe he'd bagged a deer and was dressing it out longer than expected. But Monday dawned gray and silent, Vincent's phone going straight to voicemail. Panic gripped her chest like a vice. She called the local sheriff's office in Huntingdon County, her voice trembling as she described his plan. A loop trail toward Whipple Dam where he'd camp near an old fire tower overlook. The deputies were calm at first. Disappearances in these woods weren't unheard of, especially with hunters pushing their limits. They promised to check the trailhead parking lot. Hours later, the call came. Vincent's truck was there, locked and untouched, his spare key hidden under the wheel well just as he'd always done. No signs of foul play, no forced entry. Relief mixed with dread. At least it wasn't a carjacking or roadside accident, but it meant he'd ventured into the wilderness and never returned. 4 days gone. By Tuesday, the search kicked into high gear. Sheriff's deputies mobilized, joined by state forest rangers, K-9 units, and a flood of volunteers, fellow hunters, neighbors, even Logan's schoolteacher who knew the Caldwells from church. They fanned out across miles of rugged terrain, shouting Vincent's name into the wind-whipped valleys. The forest was unforgiving. Steep ridges blanketed in fallen leaves, hidden sinkholes, and streams swollen from the rains. Helicopters buzzed overhead, their rotors chopping through the canopy, but the thick foliage swallowed any hope of spotting him from above. Dogs caught his scent from the truck, pine-scented soap and gun oil, but it faded fast on the rocky path. Amelia joined the search parties, her boots caked in mud, calling out until her throat burned. "He knows these woods," she insisted to anyone who'd listen. "He's out there, hurt maybe, but alive." Logan stayed with grandparents, drawing pictures of his dad with a big buck, as if art could summon him home. Days blurred into a week. No backpack, no rifle, no scraps of clothing snagged on branches. The coordinators pored over his map, tracing the intended path northeast toward the dam. They scoured ravines, checked under fallen logs, even dragged sections of the stream. Nothing. Whispers spread among the volunteers. Could it be a bear? Rare, but possible in these parts. Or a fall from a ledge. But Vincent was careful. He carried flares, a first aid kit. An accident should have left traces. As optimism waned, darker theories crept in. Suicide, maybe, though Amelia vehemently denied it. Vincent loved life, loved them. He wouldn't just vanish. Then, on the 10th day, a breakthrough that ignited hope and deepened the mystery. A volunteer group combing a side trail 2 miles off Vincent's route found a makeshift campsite in a secluded hollow. Charred remnants of a fire, still faintly warm under the ash, suggested it was recent. Nearby, glinting in the leaves, were 3 spent shotgun shells, matching the gauge Vincent favored for small game if his rifle hunt went south. Amelia's heart soared when they radioed it in. This was proof. He'd been here, alive, not long ago. But why deviate from the plan? What pulled him southwest instead? The site was swarmed. No blood, no struggle marks, but the dogs acted odd, circling the fire pit, whining, then losing the trail in the underbrush. Where was his gear? A hunter doesn't abandon camp without his pack. Searchers expanded the grid, yelling into the dusk, but the forest gave nothing more. As temperatures dropped and the first frost hit, the operation scaled back. Vincent's case, missing, presumed lost. For Amelia, it was torment. No closure, just endless nights, clutching his flannel shirt, Logan asking when Daddy would come home. The community rallied, fundraisers, prayer vigils, but the woods kept their silence. A year ticked by, then another. Vincent's name faded into local lore, a cautionary tale for hunters. Amelia fought to keep his memory alive, posting flyers, pleading on local news. Logan grew quieter, his drawings turning somber. Everyone assumed the forest had claimed him, an unmarked grave in some forgotten crevice. But in the spring of 2002, after weeks of relentless downpours that flooded rivers and eroded hillsides, fate intervened. A pair of hikers escaping the city for a weekend trek in Rothrock followed a washed-out path along a swollen creek. They spotted it first, a massive white oak, centuries old, toppled like a defeated titan. Its trunk spanned wider than a car, roots ripped skyward in a chaotic mass of soil and stone. The ground was raw, mud slick from the storms. One hiker snapped photos of the spectacle, but the other froze, pointing. Protruding from the upturned root ball was something unnatural, a tattered edge of camouflage fabric, caked in dirt, and what looked like a bootstrap tangled in the fibers. They backed away, hearts pounding, and called 911. Deputies arrived within the hour, cordoning the area. Word reached Detective Harlan Reeves, who'd led the original search. He drove out immediately, gut-twisting. The location was eerily close, less than a mile from that mysterious campsite. Forensic teams descended, working delicately with trowels and brushes, fearing the unstable roots could collapse. Hours in, they unearthed a decomposed backpack, then fragments of clothing, a hunting vest, jeans, and bones. Human remains curled fetal-like in the void where the tree had once stood firm. The skull told the tale. A crushing fracture on the crown, not from a fall or animal mauling, clean, deliberate, inflicted by something heavy and swung with intent. Nearby, embedded in a thick root, was Vincent's hunting knife, blade sunk deep as if driven in fury. This wasn't an accident. It was murder. Dental records confirmed it. Vincent Caldwell. Amelia collapsed when they told her, relief poisoned by rage. After 2 years of limbo, answers emerged, but they birthed a monster. The lab dissected the evidence. DNA on the backpack straps didn't match Vincent. It was foreign, male. Uploaded to the database, it hit. Belonged to Marcus Flint, 45, a drifter with a rap sheet for poaching and assault. Flint lived on the fringes, squatting in forest cabins, known to rangers as a troublemaker who flouted seasons and limits. Records showed he'd been sighted near Rothrock just days after Vincent's disappearance. Suddenly, pieces aligned. Had Vincent stumbled upon Flint's illegal hunt? A confrontation gone lethal? Investigators dug deeper. Witnesses from the 2000 search recalled seeing Flint on a back road, evasive when asked about lone hunters. His alibi crumbled. With a warrant, they tracked him to a rundown trailer in the next county. The arrest was swift. Flint surrendered without a fight, eyes hollow. In interrogation, he cracked under the weight of the DNA proof. "It was an accident," he muttered. "He caught me with a doe out of season, threatened to turn me in. Things got heated." But his story unraveled. Vincent, principled to a fault, wouldn't back down from a poacher ruining the woods he cherished. Words escalated to blows. Flint grabbed a rock, or was it a branch, and struck. Panicked, he dragged the body to the oak, hollowing out the root cavity, burying Vincent alive in the earth. The tree's growth had sealed it, roots weaving through bone. Flint took the rifle, pawned it far away. The family reeled. Justice loomed as charges were filed, second-degree murder. But before trial, Flint suffered a stroke in his cell, dying alone. No conviction, just closure, tainted by what-ifs. Amelia buried Vincent's remains, Logan placing a toy deer on the casket. The oak's fall had revealed the truth, but the woods still whispered of secrets untold. If this chilling tale has you hooked on real mysteries from the wild, smash that like button and subscribe for more. Don't miss the next one. The revelation of Vincent Caldwell's fate sent shockwaves through the tight-knit community of Huntingdon County, but the story didn't end with the unearthing of his remains. As Detective Harlan Reeves sifted through the forensic findings, a deeper unease settled over the investigation. The oak's roots had preserved more than just a body. They held fragments of a confrontation that painted Marcus Flint as a desperate man, but also hinted at something more sinister lurking in those woods. Amelia clung to every detail, her grief fueling a need to understand why her husband's life had been snuffed out so brutally. Logan, now 9, asked fewer questions, his eyes reflecting a loss that no child should bear. The forensic team worked tirelessly, piecing together the timeline. The blow to Vincent's skull was delivered with a force suggesting rage or fear-driven panic. The knife embedded in the root, its hilt weathered but recognizable as Vincent's own, suggested a final act of defiance or despair. Had Flint turned Vincent's weapon against him after the killing, plunging it into the tree as a twisted marker? The lab confirmed the DNA on the backpack straps was Flint's, with traces of sweat and skin cells indicating he'd handled it roughly, perhaps during a struggle, but no fingerprints survived the decay, leaving gaps in the narrative. Reeves pored over Flint's file, noting his history of violent outbursts during poaching arrests. This wasn't his first brush with the law, but it was his deadliest. Interviews with locals painted a grim picture. A ranger recalled Flint bragging about outsmarting game wardens, once boasting he'd deal with anyone who snitched. Another hunter who'd crossed paths with Flint near Whipple Dam in 2000 described him as jittery that fall, carrying an extra rifle he couldn't explain. The pieces fit. Vincent, a stickler for rules, likely confronted Flint over an illegal kill. Words turned to fists, and in a moment of blind fury, Flint struck. But why hide the body so meticulously? The hollowed-out root cavity wasn't a random choice, it required effort, suggesting Flint knew the area intimately and feared discovery. The search for Vincent's missing rifle intensified. Divers scoured nearby creeks while trackers combed swamps miles away, following Flint's known haunts. A week later, a pawn shop in Altoona logged a rifle matching Vincent's description, sold anonymously in November 2000. The serial number confirmed it. Flint had ditched it fast, likely to cover his tracks. But the gun yielded no new DNA. Its stock had been wiped clean. Reeves theorized Flint burned the rest of Vincent's gear, explaining the empty campsite. The fire pit's ash, analyzed for accelerants, showed traces of synthetic fabric, possibly a tent or jacket, corroborating the cover-up. Amelia visited the oak site, now a grim memorial marked by police tape. She knelt where the roots had cradled her husband, tears mixing with the damp soil. "He didn't deserve this," she whispered to Logan, who clutched a framed photo of Vincent smiling with his first buck. The community rallied again, holding a candlelight vigil, but whispers of justice unfinished lingered. Flint's death in custody, officially a stroke, though some speculated stress or guilt, left a void. No trial meant no courtroom reckoning, no chance for Amelia to face her husband's killer. Reeves wasn't satisfied. He dug into old search logs, finding a report of a shadowy figure spotted near the hollow during the initial hunt, dismissed as a volunteer at the time. Could it have been Flint watching from the trees? The detective cross-referenced radio logs, uncovering a garbled transmission that night. A volunteer claiming they'd seen someone running off-trail. It was never followed up, lost in the chaos. This fueled speculation. Had Flint lingered, ensuring his secret stayed buried? The oak's fall in 2002 wasn't just chance, it was nature's reckoning. Storms had weakened its base, the relentless rain exposing what 2 years of searching couldn't. Yet, questions gnawed at Reeves. Was Flint alone? The forest's vastness hid more than one man's guilt. Amelia demanded answers, hiring a private investigator to scour Flint's past for accomplices. The trail grew cold, but the mystery deepened, pulling the community into a web of suspicion. If this twist-filled saga keeps you on edge, hit that like button and subscribe for more. Don't miss what's next. The private investigator, a grizzled ex-ranger named Gideon Hale, took up Amelia's cause with a fervor that bordered on obsession. He saw Vincent's case as a personal challenge, a puzzle the forest had taunted him with during his ranger days. As summer faded into the crisp days of 2002, Hale trekked the Rothrock trails, retracing Vincent's steps and Flint's shadowy movements. The oak site remained a somber beacon, its upturned roots now a stark reminder of the violence beneath. Amelia funded the effort with savings, her resolve hardening with each dead end. Logan, growing taller but quieter, sometimes joined Hale, clutching a compass Vincent had given him, as if it could guide them to the truth. Hale's first move was to canvass the fringes of the forest where Flint had been sighted. He interviewed reclusive trappers and squatters, men who lived off the grid and knew the woods' secrets. One, a wiry old-timer named Clarence Pruitt, recalled seeing Flint with a younger man in late October 2000, days before Vincent vanished. They were arguing, Pruitt said, sipping moonshine from a jar. Flint was red-faced, waving a knife. The kid looked scared, bolted when I got too close. The description matched a drifter, Toby Rennick, 22, who'd been linked to Flint in minor poaching busts. Hale dug into Rennick's whereabouts, gone from the area by November 2000, last seen hitching a ride west. Could he have been Flint's accomplice, fleeing after the murder? Reeves, still on the case, welcomed Hale's findings. They cross-checked Rennick's file, finding a blurry photo from a 1999 arrest. Lean, shaggy-haired, eyes darting. Witnesses from the 2000 search recalled a similar figure lingering near the trailhead, dismissed as a curious onlooker. Hale theorized Rennick might have helped bury Vincent, explaining the effort behind the root cavity. The knife in the tree took on new meaning, perhaps a signal between them, a marker Flint couldn't resist leaving. But Rennick's trail vanished, leaving only speculation. Was he a witness, a participant, or just another ghost of the woods? The investigation shifted to the campsite hollow. Hale brought in a forensic botanist to study the fire pit's soil, hoping for overlooked clues. The expert found charred bone fragments, small, possibly animal, but raising questions. Had Flint cooked something there to erase evidence? The ash yielded a shred of synthetic fabric, consistent with Vincent's gear, but no human DNA beyond Flint's. Still, the anomaly gnawed at Hale. He mapped the hollow's proximity to game trails, noting it was a poacher's sweet spot, perfect for Flint's illegal hunts, and a likely flashpoint with Vincent. Amelia pressed for more, her grief morphing into a crusade. She organized a public meeting, drawing dozens to the community center. Locals shared stories, a hunter spotting Flint with a heavy load near the oak in 2000, a camper hearing shouts that night. One woman, a nurse who'd volunteered in the search, recalled Flint's hands, scratched and mud-caked when she'd offered him water. He wouldn't meet my eyes, she said. These fragments built a picture, a man unraveling, possibly with help, after a deadly encounter. Hale and Reeves petitioned for a deeper search, securing funds to excavate around the oak. Digging resumed in September 2002, the team unearthing more of Vincent's belongings, a rusted canteen, a cracked GPS unit. The GPS data, corrupted but partially readable, showed coordinates southwest of the planned route, confirming Vincent had veered toward the hollow. The find electrified the case, but no new remains or weapons surfaced. The forest seemed to mock their efforts, swallowing answers as fast as they found them. Rumors swirled. Some claimed Flint had bragged in a bar about handling a snitch, though no one came forward with solid proof. Others whispered of a cult hiding in the woods, a stretch Hale dismissed but couldn't fully shake. The oak, now a hollow shell, stood as a silent witness, its roots still entwined with Vincent's bones. Amelia visited daily, leaving flowers, her voice breaking as she promised justice. Logan, watching from a distance, began sketching the tree, its dark cavity a recurring motif. The case teetered on the edge of resolution. Hale vowed to track Rennick, while Reeves reviewed old tapes for that mysterious runner. The woods held more secrets, and the Caldwells' quest for closure drove them deeper into the unknown. If this haunting mystery keeps you gripped, smash that like button and subscribe for more. Don't miss what's next. Gideon Hale's pursuit of Toby Rennick became a relentless chase through the underbelly of Pennsylvania's wild fringes. By late fall 2002, with leaves turning crimson and gold, he tracked leads across counties, fueled by Amelia's unwavering support and a growing sense of duty to Vincent's memory. The oak site, now a grim pilgrimage spot, drew curious hikers, their whispers adding pressure to solve the lingering riddle. Logan, nearing 10, started asking Hale about the bad man who hurt his dad, his young mind piecing together fragments from overheard conversations. Amelia held him close, her eyes steely with determination as she funded Hale's every move. Hale's breakthrough came from a truck stop waitress in Erie, 200 miles west. She remembered Rennick, scruffy, nervous, flashing cash in November 2000. Kept looking over his shoulder, she said, pouring coffee. Paid with a wad of bills, bought a bus ticket out. Hale traced the ticket to Cleveland, then lost the trail amid vagrants and drifters. But a pawn shop receipt, found in Rennick's old haunt, listed a rifle sold days after Vincent's disappearance, matching the gauge, though the serial number was scratched off. It wasn't Vincent's, but it hinted at a pattern: Rennick fencing gear for Flint. Hale suspected he'd been the muscle, hauling Vincent's body while Flint orchestrated the cover-up. Reeves, back at the sheriff's office, re-examined the 2000 search logs with fresh eyes. A deputy's note mentioned a faint boot print near the hollow, size 10. Flint wore an 11, but Rennick's arrest record listed a 10. The print, blurred by rain, had been overlooked. Hale brought in a tracker to cast the area again, finding a second impression under moss, suggesting 2 men had been there. The theory solidified. Flint killed Vincent in a rage, and Rennick helped hide the body, splitting the loot before fleeing. But why hadn't Rennick returned? Guilt, fear of Flint, or a bigger score elsewhere? Amelia pushed for a public appeal, airing a segment on a Pittsburgh news station. "If anyone knows Toby Rennick, please come forward," she pleaded, holding Logan's hand. The broadcast sparked tips. A gas station clerk in Ohio recalled Rennick passing through in 2001, muttering about trouble back east. Another lead came from a prison inmate claiming Rennick bragged about a forest job before vanishing. Hale followed these threads, contacting Ohio authorities, but Rennick had slipped into the wind, possibly dead, possibly reinvented. The uncertainty gnawed at them all. The oak excavation yielded one last clue: a rusted belt buckle, engraved with Vincent's initials, tangled in the roots. It was a keepsake from their wedding, a detail Amelia confirmed through tears. The find suggested Flint or Rennick had stripped Vincent's body, adding a layer of cold calculation to the crime. Forensic analysis detected faint blood traces on the buckle, not Vincent's, but an unknown type, hinting at a struggle involving a third party. Reeves hypothesized Rennick might have been injured, explaining his flight. The lab rushed DNA tests, but results were weeks away, leaving the team in suspense. Hale ventured deeper into Rothrock, mapping Flint's known camps. He found an abandoned lean-to with charred bones, deer, likely, but the fire pit echoed the hollow's setup. Nearby, a shallow grave held a poacher's trap, suggesting Flint's illicit life. Hale wondered if Vincent had stumbled into a larger operation, threatening more than one man's freedom. The forest's silence felt oppressive, as if it guarded a conspiracy beyond Flint and Rennick. Amelia and Logan visited the oak again, the boy placing his compass atop the roots. "Dad would want us to keep going," he said softly. Hale nodded, vowing to exhaust every lead. Reeves, meanwhile, dug into old ranger reports, uncovering a 1999 sighting of Flint with an unidentified partner, possibly Rennick, near the dam. The pieces hinted at a duo honed by years of skirting the law, undone by Vincent's moral stand. The case hung in limbo, a tapestry of clues and shadows. Hale prepared to expand the search west, while Amelia held vigils, her voice rising above the wind. The woods still whispered, and the Caldwells' fight for justice burned brighter than ever. If this gripping unraveling keeps you hooked, hit that like button and subscribe for more. Don't miss what's next. By early 2003, Gideon Hale's westward hunt for Toby Rennick stretched into the snowy plains of Ohio, where winter cloaked the trails in silence. Amelia's savings dwindled, but her resolve didn't, funding Hale's every mile as she clung to the hope of confronting Vincent's shadow. Logan, now 10, sketched the oak obsessively, its hollow a haunting void in his drawings, a symbol of the father he barely remembered. The community watched, torn between admiration for Amelia's tenacity and exhaustion from the unresolved grief. Detective Harlan Reeves, back at the helm, coordinated with Ohio law enforcement, their radios crackling with updates that often led nowhere. Hale's Ohio lead paid off in a rundown motel in Toledo. A clerk recalled Rennick renting a room in early 2001, leaving behind a duffel bag after a hasty checkout. Inside, police found a hunting knife, worn with a chipped blade, matching the style Vincent carried. No blood, no prints, but the coincidence was chilling. Hale sent it to the lab, hoping for a DNA match to the buckle's mystery sample. Meanwhile, a local bartender remembered Rennick drinking heavily, muttering about a job gone wrong and a guy who wouldn't shut up. The timeline fit: Vincent's confrontation, the murder, Rennick's flight. Hale pressed the bartender for more, but the man clammed up, fearing reprisal from old associates. Reeves cross-referenced Rennick's movements with missing persons reports, unearthing a pattern. 2 hunters vanished from Ohio forests in 2001, their cases cold, both near areas Rennick had been sighted. Could he have turned predator emboldened by Vincent's death? The theory gained traction when a ranger found a buried rifle near one site, its serial number filed off, echoing the Altoona pawn. Hale and Reeves theorized Rennick, unmoored by guilt or greed, might have struck again, using skills honed with Flint. The lab rushed DNA from the knife, but results lagged, leaving the connection unproven. Back in Pennsylvania, Amelia organized a memorial hike to the oak, drawing dozens to honor Vincent. She spoke through tears, her voice carrying over the rustling leaves. He loved these woods, and they took him. Logan placed his compass in a small cairn, a tribute that moved the crowd to tears. Among them was Clarence Pruitt, who approached Hale with a new detail. He'd seen Rennick with Flint months before Vincent's trip, unloading gear from a truck. "Looked like they were planning something big," Pruitt said. Hale noted it. Could it have been a poaching ring, disrupted by Vincent's presence? The oak site yielded one final clue during a follow-up dig. A volunteer uncovered a rusted tin, its lid pried open, containing a crumpled map marked with X's, possible poaching spots. One X aligned with the hollow, another near Whipple Dam. The map bore Flint's initials, scratched faintly, suggesting a network. Hale photographed it, sending copies to rangers statewide. A reply came from a West Virginia warden. Flint had been banned there in 1999 for illegal trapping, with Rennick as a suspected accomplice. The duo's history hinted at a partnership deeper than poaching, perhaps a criminal enterprise Vincent threatened to expose. Amelia's appeal aired again, this time nationally. Tips flooded in. A trucker saw Rennick in Missouri in 2002, bearded and jittery. A farmer found a camp with poacher traps near St. Louis. Hale followed these leads, crossing state lines, but each ended in dead ends, abandoned camps, false identities. The knife's DNA results finally arrived. A partial match to the buckle's unknown blood, too degraded for a full profile. It wasn't conclusive, but it fueled the theory of a third party, maybe Rennick injured or an unseen witness. The case ballooned into a regional mystery, drawing media attention. Reporters camped near the oak, speculating on a forest underworld. Hale and Reeves met with federal agents exploring a task force to hunt Rennick and uncover Flint's network. Amelia, exhausted but unyielding, vowed to see it through. Logan, sketching by her side, asked, "Will we find the other bad man?" Hale couldn't promise, but he nodded, driven by the boy's hope. The woods still held secrets, their shadows stretching toward a truth the Caldwells refused to let die. If this suspenseful journey keeps you captivated, smash that like button and subscribe for more. Don't miss what's next.